Yazen Al Kodmani is a man who knows how to make things grow. Growing up in a family steeped in agriculture, Yazen took inspiration from his heritage and established the Emirates Bio Farm in 2016, now the largest privately owned organic farm in the UAE, with more than 60 varieties of organic crops produced. But Yazen's ambitions don't stop at the farm itself. He is also a strong advocate for sustainable practices in every element of our lives, and seeks to help all of us grow together in a healthier, more organic world. Hello and welcome to Homegrown DXB, the show taking you inside the lives of the people changing yours right here in the UAE. I'm your host, Amr Bati. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Yazen Al Kodmani, General Manager at Emirates Bio Farm. Yazen, thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. So I wanted to talk, of course, about Emirates Bio Farm and how we got there, but I wanted to start a little bit earlier in life. I understand that you grew up around a lot of people who were in the agricultural field, a lot of agricultural specialists,
Sure.
I believe, in your family. And I wonder what kind of impact that had on you when you were young. Is that something where you grew up from a very young age, having a passion for agriculture, knowing that you wanted to be involved in farming in this space?
In terms of growing up, I was born in the city of Al Ain, the garden city of the UAE. And my father came in the mid 70s as an agriculture engineer and started with the research centers in farming and moved into wheat farming in the desert under His Highness the late Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan, the founder of the UAE. I was very heavily influenced, not specifically by agriculture, but the stories of environmental protection, farming, and as you know, in our communities in Al Ain, sometimes the road is completely diverted for one tree. And I grew up hearing the stories about from the Ministry of Agriculture and how His Highness Sheikh Zayed really cared about farming and farming in the country, and that definitely played a role in my interest. Yeah.
But I think then at a young age, you didn't actually immediately pursue farming, right, as a sort of business
Correct.
path, right?
Yes.
You decided on maybe a potentially different career initially. What were you looking at doing before you actually came back around to agriculture?
I studied business. I specialized in finance, and I was looking more in the investments field and business consulting fields. And I came back, and I was in internal auditing and business processes and so on. And with Emirates Biofarm, it was an opportunity that came around where the industry that my father worked in and my brother worked in is agriculture, but not in production themselves. So supplying materials, fertilizers, building greenhouses, and so on. And an opportunity came around with Emirates Biofarm, where I was exposed to farming firsthand, organic agriculture, sustainable agriculture. And I think I developed my passion there. And so I went there kind of more on the business end of things. And then I ended up never leaving.
And what struck you then that maybe you hadn't seen previously? Or what ignited that passion at that time?
Well, there's a lot of, misconceptions and things that you learn being on a farm. And I think the challenges draw me. So seeing agriculture in the UAE and sometimes seeing that consumers aren't aware, consumers aren't aware of the specific challenges. Why are we importing? So a lot of people would tell you we're importing 80 to 90% of the food, but why are we doing this? And then learning a lot of it is consumer choice. So if you don't choose local, that's one thing. And menus don't really highlight local and so on. So understanding that there are really challenges outside of just technical growing food really sparked my interest. And I thought I'd love to change the mindset around agriculture.
So when it came to like Emirates Bio Farm specifically, what were sort of the initial ambitions, initial ideas? Obviously now hugely successful, largest organic farm in the UAE. I think you have over 60 varieties of
Yes.
produce that you grow there. But I assume that like everything, it starts from more humble beginnings. What was the intention or the goal when you started?
Well, initially it was fruits and vegetable production for the local market in the organic segment. We operate the UAE's largest organic fertilizer factory. This came from an earlier story in the 90s as agriculture was growing, a lot of soil was being imported, and it came with some invasive species, some environmental challenges. So an organic fertilizer factory was set up in the mid 90s by my father and his partners to treat soil, and slowly it turned into a circular economy business. We collect up to 60,000 tons of organic waste, and we produce high quality organic fertilizer. So, certified organic very, very early on. So we've been in this industry for a while now. And with Emirates Bio Farm, it's to showcase these fertilizers and inputs, because part of the circular story is you collect the waste, you put it back into the soil, and then to showcase the benefits of organic fertilizers, and then produce, healthy, sustainable food and supply the local market. Mainly, you look at farmers here setting up, and if you look at a business plan, it's going to showcase, tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers. These are high volume items, and in the beginning, that was the idea. But we were blessed with a team that each came with their own unique experiences, and they added to the farm different crops. Today, we harvest in the season around 500 kilos of carrots every single day. And I don't think other farmers are really specialized in this. So we slowly experimented, and we have that mindset where we want to keep trying. And over the years, we've tried and experimented with so many different crops and things that today it's a large scale integrated farm, not only in the fruits and vegetables, but we also produce up to 6 million organic eggs every year, in addition to the agri-tourism and the things we became famous for.
Did you ever have any hesitation when it came to getting to space? I mean, there's maybe incorrect, but there's a perception that, things don't grow in the desert, or it's very specialized. You have dates and not much else, right? But obviously that's not the case with Emirates Bio Farm, and certainly other farms here too. Did you have those concerns? Did you already know better? Maybe because, again, you had grown up with that background. And what would you say to people who say, well, you shouldn't be growing here? It doesn't make sense, right? The soil's not good. Things aren't where they should be.
I think, to be honest, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here. Somebody grew wheat in the desert in the early 70s and the 80s. So seeing pictures of black and white, wheat fields in Al Ain, and being exposed. So when I came to the farm, and the people around us already understood that we can grow so much more. So I already had the people around me that, as you said, kind of showed the potential, but it's how to scale that potential, where I try to contribute, and how to share that knowledge with the community, and push it forward, that we're not just going to grow cucumbers and tomatoes. And now, as I'm hoping that we don't just grow what's possible to grow or what's in demand today. We want to grow what's possible within the given environment we have. So least amount of water usage, least amount of energy usage, to produce crops that are viable to grow here, and then generate demand for them through our interaction with the ecosystem, with chefs, with tourism, and so on. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that demand, I think that's certainly like the next step, right? The maybe gaps when it comes to local produce versus the imports, because I think I imagine that's a big challenge.
Yes.
You have, and you said like the 80 to 90%, or at least that's I think the right number of produce that's imported.
Mm-hmm.
How do you compete against that? Because you already have those supply chains worked out with all the hotels and the restaurants. People sort of expect that they're going to get their produce imported. How do you compete with those established companies?
Yeah, I think this is a huge challenge that we are fortunate to be in a country that is at the center of trade today through a lot of effort. So you have, some of the world's best airlines, ports, and we are now, the UAE is connecting east to west. Trade is flowing even from south to north, and it comes through the UAE. So we're getting the best of the world all year round at the best prices and rates. And if you look at the global agriculture ecosystem, it's not just about cost of production. There's a lot of protectionism. So what is protectionism? The countries really care. They consider agriculture as national security. So they subsidize heavily agriculture. It's estimated up to 40% of some categories in the US of a farmer's income is government subsidies. So you're getting not real costs. What comes in is not the real cost of agriculture due to this. And in Europe, there's a lot of protectionist measures. The UAE is looking to be open for trade, is looking to expand trade, and we want to be part of that mission. So we don't want protectionism. So how can we compete and succeed in this kind of situation? And I think today, through the efforts of the departments of tourism, through the efforts of the Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Climate Change, enabling local farming, and now we're getting chefs that are superstars out of here. We're no longer importing concepts. We are now exporting concepts when it comes to food. We're exporting ideas when it comes to food with Dubai chocolate, for example, right? So if the next Dubai chocolate trend is a product that requires local ingredients, that's how you generate demand for local product, right? That's how you compete. And that's our hope, that the chefs that are homegrown, we slowly try and influence through localized ingredients and unique menus that maybe have camel milk, maybe local quinoa as an alternative to rice. And that'll push our the UAE hybrid culture that's coming up now in terms of the food scene and the ingredients and the local production along with it. That is in terms of hospitality. In terms of retail, also through government efforts and retailers having sustainability objectives, they are really looking for local to cut down miles and giving us more shelf space and supporting us. So I think the trend is there. Now it's about cost. Can you produce it for as cheap as any other country with the same, with the different policy and regulation? And this is a big challenge. I think you see it even across the world. So right now, Brazilian poultry is some of the cheapest in the world, and it impacts US poultry. It impacts European poultry. It's not just a UAE challenge. So we are part of.
How do you combat that in that situation when you have such a strong import
Yes.
sort of system in place, and it's cheaper?
Maybe I'm going to give a shout out to some of the people that aren't us, but you can see the efforts of Sharjah recently with Mileha wheat, branding it as Mileha, or milk. You have filet chicken, for example, coming in. You have Darzol chicken from Abu Dhabi, Emirates Bio Farm products. You have local entities really highlighting the benefits or the unique aspects of a local product. And right now you're seeing the consumer really respond. I hear about Meleha milk being sold out a lot. People are demanding it because you have leadership coming out and saying, we've done this in the best standards possible. This is from farm to your table within 24 hours. We are no longer now trying to be cheaper to entice. We are, explaining the benefits better and why it's more expensive and why it's premium. So I think that approach works, but it's happening on a case-by-case or a company-by-company basis. How can we do it for an entire region? How can Hatta honey, not just as a brand, any honey coming out of a certain region, or Liwa dates, and this has been done. Food diplomacy is something that's practiced. Thailand, Europe, let's say France, Italy, cheeses are connected to regions and protected with some things called PDO. And so it's like, if you want the original, they actually confirm and have a label on it. And any other cheese that's not from this region can't be labeled Parmigiano Reggiano, for example. Even Greek style now says Greek style. Greek yogurt is Greek yogurt.
Right, it's not.
So they protect and they try to premiumize this product. And you look at the PR industry, you look at even acai, even avocado. What makes us today all have the same breakfast all around the world? It's not like we all made the same decision. This is behind it. There are industries, there are lobbying, there's concerted effort to make sure these ingredients. So how can we do that for local dates? Emirati dates. Only if Emirati dates are in this product is it Dubai chocolate. So this marketing aspect, you know, this came to me. I realized at the beginning when I was trying to promote, let's say, when I was talking about camel milk, people would say, well, you know, it's more expensive. Dairy is 4 dirhams a liter fresh. Camel milk is 6 to 7 or 8 dirhams a liter. It won't work. And then suddenly, a few years later, every single gas station has oat milk, you know, coconut milk, almond milk, and they are at 10, 11, 12 dirhams a liter. So that changed my mindset. I realized then, I'm like, this isn't about cost. They tell me, hey, I'm not going to buy this product because of cost. It's about consumer demand. So if we generate the right consumer demand, we market our product correctly, we can generate demand for our ingredients that we are able to grow locally.
I guess speaking of like this, well, perceived premium, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, the Emirates Bio Farm is an organic, right? The largest
Yes.
organic
Yeah.
farm. You know, why was that specific decision taken? Because, you know, there are many farms here that don't commit 100% to the
Correct.
organic label.
Yeah.
You know, why did you make the decision? Also, what does organic as a term mean to you?
Yeah.
Because I think it's sort of gotten lost sometimes in the marketing as
Yes.
being something you slap on your product to make it seem appealing or quote
Yeah.
unquote healthy.
Yeah, no, organic is very important because as you mentioned, there's a lot of marketing terms that you can add, and there's no certification behind it. With organic, it's a 20,000 dirham fine in the UAE if you put organic without a label. And the label, the audit requires that you're not using chemicals in your fertilizers, you're not using chemicals in your pesticides, so synthetic chemicals. You can use natural ingredients. And you are not using herbicides, for example. So organic is certified. It's built on lab results. It's built on auditing, and it's uniform around the world mostly. So we're following, you know, very strict organic guidelines here, very similar to European ones. But everybody across the world identifies with that label, right? So there's European Bio or USDA organic or local organic. So it's recognizable. So you can immediately get that premium, right? In the UAE, most of the time we are operating in what you can call as virgin soil. So this isn't hundreds of years or thousands of years of agriculture, where conversion, or it's an entrenched industry. In my opinion, UAE's resources are too precious, from water to soil to waste on conventional agriculture. We need to become, you know, there's a trend globally in organic. It's growing 15% year on year. You see supermarket shelves went from a small section to it's everywhere. So the UAE is very well placed because even conventional farmers use organic fertilizers here as you need to build soil. So they start with sand, they add organic fertilizers, so they all deal with organic fertilizers, and then they add the chemical on top as a booster or as something to support their plants. But if you're soil-based farming in the UAE, you are using organic fertilizer. So we're halfway there, in my opinion. Also, we can't compete in the conventional. And there's a strong leadership directive to have sustainable agriculture, to be leaders in environmental protection. So in my opinion, we have an opportunity that others don't. There's very high spending power here. There's an opportunity to transform to organic easily compared to, let's say, a country like India, which is doing, you know, but it has entrenched agriculture for hundreds of years. And the third thing, there's leadership support into organic. So, you know, we believe in organic. We think that it builds soil for next generations. So what you're putting in is going to build slowly year by year. We've been adding less and less fertilizers every year. So we think that it's something that grows within the environment. And a lot of people come out and they're shocked at the farm. You will hear a lot of birds, you will see insects flying everywhere, and then you see your crops within that ecosystem growing. So we're very happy operating, and it makes us, you know, feel good about what we're doing. So this is the path we've chosen. Yeah.
So you mentioned that people coming to the farm to
Yeah.
see. I mean, the one thing I think that's interesting about Emirates Bio Farm, particularly, is that you've built up this real community
Yes.
around it, right? You have the tours, you have
Yeah.
the restaurant, you have even just the way you communicate with
Yes.
people who are passionate about both, you know, fresh produce and sustainability.
Yeah.
How did that element of the business sort of come about? When you moved not just from, okay, we're a farm producing products to
Yeah.
we want to really build a community around what we do.
Yeah. So what happened is we were producing and then we decided to do home orders as well, not just commercial production. And our Instagram, now we went to B2C. So Instagram was set up very basic. I was taking photos. I noticed so many comments was, what country is this? Right? People weren't seeing
What country did they think it
what
was?
you know, this is to them, this seemed out of place. Especially the Emirates Bio Farm isn't covered with date palm. So it kind of doesn't look traditional local farm here. And the comments were, can I visit? Can I visit? I'd love to visit. So in
When was this when you started getting this sort of traction?
2018, 2017, 2018. So we decided to do, and at that time there was like a farmers market run weekly in Business Bay. And a lot of people would show up. It's in the morning, they do their shopping, and it'll close by 12. So it's a 9 to 12 thing. And I thought, okay, let's open for a day. Even it's free entry. Come out, do your shopping, and leave. And it was just me. There was no facility or anything. I thought 20 people are going to come, 30 people who just want to buy their product, learn. We were overwhelmed with like 200 people.
That was day one.
That was the first, yeah, Friday. It was a Friday. And I was doing tours and coming, and I'd say hi to people on the fields I never seen before. So people were just walking in and enjoying their day. We didn't have food to serve them. We didn't have enough water. We weren't set up at all. And I realized one thing. So I was thinking that I'm going to sell vegetables. And I realized these people weren't here to buy vegetables. They want their kids who suddenly turned 5. They're living in a city. They haven't been interacting with nature at all. They want to show them where food comes from. They want to visit a farm. So there's a real need there. We started doing weekly, Friday and Saturday. And then we opened a restaurant, 2019, a shop. We did Organic Fest in 2020. 3,000 visitors came. And it was February. So right before.
Just in time.
Just in time. Right before, and after that, Abu Dhabi, and the UAE had strict regulation, especially we were producing food. So tourism stopped for up to 2 years. We restarted in 2023. And since then, we've been growing. Today, we welcome 3,000 guests a week. So on a weekend, we have 2,000 guests coming out to Emirates Bio Farm. And we've tried to expand and improve the experience ever since.
Well, I think maybe that plays into a certain degree to I've seen and heard you as a sort of sustainability advocate,
Yeah.
more broadly, not just obviously talking
Yeah.
about agriculture. You were involved obviously in Expo 2020
Yes.
as well. Is that something again that you mentioned came from your own upbringing, from your father? Your
Yeah.
brother's also in the same space. Why is that such a passion to you, and sort of what do you hope to see from that advocacy?
Yeah, I think there are a mix of things. There's the childhood aspect and the stories of growing up in a lane, how important it was not to move a single tree, how important it was. There are stories where, leadership saw some dead birds, and this was a big issue and a big scandal. They were very careful that everything that is used and done in UAE is to build and protect the environment. And the forestry that you see in Abu Dhabi, and in Dubai, you see the mangroves, for example. It's absolutely incredible. And this was all done by leadership effort. And I grew up in that. A lot of the projects, as I mentioned, because we were in agriculture, so I was aware about the forestry, about the plantations, about how important it was. And then when I grew up, and in the past, I think 10 years, everybody's been talking about sustainability, and food is really at the center of a lot of environmental issues worldwide. And it's such an important thing that, during COVID, I realized when the world stops, people just wanted to know, do they have enough food? Like this was priority number one. So it's taken a backseat. If you look at the history of humanity, agriculture and food played the major role up until the Industrial Revolution, and then we moved into cities. Well, before that, most of humanity worked in food and agriculture. And then agriculture is a huge space. It's not just, growing vegetables, fish, aquaculture, livestock, trees, forestry. So you're talking about huge scale of an industry and an impact on the environment. So when there was a lot of sustainability efforts and push, we were really at the center of it, and we were really interacting with people who are trying to save water. You look at agriculture, when even energy around the world, and um, the destruction of forestry is linked to agriculture. So I think this intersection, just out of our existence as organic farmers, just brought us into this. Being in a country like the UAE that hosted the expo, again, that was another push um, to, we met people and initiatives from all over the world. There was a huge push locally from all kinds of companies and from all walks of life that supported what we're doing.
Where do you think the UAE, this is again in your opinion, where do you think the UAE is situated currently in terms of food security?
I think, some people would assume food security is growing all of our food, but, and there's a UAE food security strategy. And I believe it has around 5 pillars. So diversifying our sources. So if you're importing rice from one country, can we have 5 countries diversify a bit more so that if there's a risk here, reducing food loss and waste? Because if I throw away 30%, the 30% that we are discarding in food loss and waste, if we save that, that's equivalent to growing it.
And what the 30% that gets thrown away, is that because they're misshapen, or what's the main reasoning behind
Well,
that?
because we import a lot, so already the misshapen has been sorted out. There's a lot of, so that would be called, let's say, loss. That is at the farm stage, and it gets sorted out. We have that at Emirates Bio Farm and a lot of the local production. On the consumer level and the retail and so on, it's called waste. So it means it's perfect. It already reached you. It's not misshapen, and then it spoils in a fridge. It spoil. We cook it. We throw it. Obviously, in the UAE, people here, there's a culture of giving. Most of food is not discarded, but still, in the hospitality industry, it's a big issue. We have a lot of buffets and brunches and Ramadan iftars and so on, buffet culture, and it's big. So targeting food loss and waste is part of the food security strategy. Um, and then diversifying what we are growing is very important. Trying to identify crops and inputs that we can produce sustainably in the UAE. Also, there's investment in farmland in other regions as well to support our food security strategy. And I forgot what's the other pillars there. But it's not just about growing our own food. Ultimately, we're not considering producing coffee or chocolate. We're not going to be 100% in everything. I think the ultimate mindset is, if there's a big challenge, if trade stops and so on, are you going to look around and ask, can I grow wheat? Or are you going to have that model farm, that model operation going on that knows how to grow wheat? But in time of crisis, I have also the 5th pillar is, of course, your national stockpile. So there's a national stockpile program. Everybody that works in food, these large companies, they have to keep a large portion also here available as a stockpile. So in case of crisis, you have 3 months to 6 months of food available. And then within that 3 to 6 months, can you ramp up local production? So let's say wheat farming could be unsustainable or unfinancially feasible on a large scale. But in time of crisis, yes, I have the seeds, I have the know-how, I already know the seed, I already know what to do. So we can scale and we can pump water no matter the cost. It's a crisis. So I think the mindset is to have all of this available to you, to have the know-how available to you, and then to keep innovating. For one very important reason, the world is, because of climate change, we're having a lot of, the world is facing lack of fresh water, loss of soil, extreme temperatures. The UAE is already kind of there. So if we solve for farming,
extreme temperature, I think we all feel that, right?
Yes. So if we solve for food production here, this is going to impact the future of food production around the world. So the impact, hopefully is outsized compared to the population size or the size of agriculture.
No, I mean, I think that's an admirable goal and absolutely something that we could be contributing both
Yeah.
locally but to the world as well. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, well, again, I guess bring your father back into this. In the sense, I was curious: is this because he has the same background, your brother as well is in the same space?
Yes.
Do they give you a lot of advice on the business? Is that something where they are critiquing kind of how you run things,
Yeah.
or they just let you do your thing?
No, my father was very heavily involved, especially in the early years. He's a visionary in this space. He's always pushing us even, farther. So sometimes we may have ideas, but execution wise, there's very strong support. I think for my brother, he's in the high tech sector. So he supports farmers that are doing indoor agriculture with the technology and so on. So I I reach to them. They are fully, involved. I reach to them whenever I need some support. But in recent years, I think, we're now trying to take it to a future plan and in a direction that is born in Emirates Bio Farm itself. So in the initial years, the establishment and what we're doing, like I said, we're already, somebody carried us very far ahead. And now we're trying to honor that legacy and that effort by trying to push forward in other things and let them relax a bit.
What was the biggest challenge that you, I guess, encountered or faced
Yeah.
over your history at Emirates Bio Farm? Something maybe that took you by surprise, but then you pushed through.
I think there are some challenges that are you wouldn't know and that are difficult, but they were resolved. Unfortunately, sometimes there are issues around the world, not just UAE. One time I attended an event that said 5 out of 7 food products that mention Italy in it or from Italy are fraudulent, unfortunately. You have mislabeled olive oil
So
and
where are they from,
adulterated.
admittedly?
So you have other countries that benefit from that marketing. Like I said, somebody, promoted and pushed Parmigiano Reggiano, for example, and somebody else can benefit by claiming the same label, but not producing it up to the Italy standards and so on. So they benefit from that brand. Even Dubai chocolate today is being produced around the world. Funny enough, I traveled to Geneva and I took Dubai chocolate to Switzerland, which is usually where you bring chocolate from. But I found over there are brands producing it. Okay, they took your brand, right? They took your name. So
I mean, I
uh,
saw it everywhere. I traveled as well.
yes,
North America, Europe, Dubai chocolate ice cream, Dubai
yes.
chocolate everything, right?
So now it's a theme instead of like from Dubai.
Right.
But you can see where that could become problematic with Norwegian salmon, or so you have that also in fish. You have that issue. You have adulterated products like honey and olive oil is big products where they can replace an ingredient and then get the premium of olive oil.
And have
Uh,
you found this with some of the, I guess, products that you've been trying to
yes,
brand or create?
yeah. So sometimes you'll find challenges with organic growers themselves are very, I would say, 99% ethical because if your audit you fail, you lose your business. But middlemen sometimes are very easy with the certification because yes, I sourced from 200 farms. Here's some documents. There's no lab test, soil test. It's reliant on maybe a foreign country mixing. So the middlemen or people in the middle or processed goods, or sometimes we face challenges with traders. There's a brand that has Biofarm on it, for example, that could be from a different country. So you have these challenges that you didn't expect before.
And
And
I mean, other than, I guess, lobbying for regulation, how do
yeah,
you combat that?
yeah, the government and the regulators were very, you know, they responded immediately to these kinds of challenges. Also, our partners and retailers, once you highlight, hey, this is broccoli in July, unless they live in a different country than me, this can't be growing here right now. Corn, broccoli, all of these things, and immediately you see a change on the shelves. So there's a lot of that. So we found that before we were kind of spectators, now we are active participants, where we are participating with the government and saying, as people who are aware of our industry, that there's a challenge here, there's a challenge here, and it's been very responsive. Organic, we're very protective over it. If somebody has organic, the label is not correct, we try and inform the retailer to make sure that, we have a fair playing ground in the end. So yes, food integrity is very important. Traceability. So this is why you're seeing traceability projects showing you where food is coming from to give back that trust to the consumer. And I would say in the UAE market, organic is very well protected. So that is very good.
What are some things that you think, or products or produce you think that it just doesn't make sense to grow here? And what are some that perhaps you hope to add to your roster?
There are people, by the way, growing coffee today in the UAE, which is
Okay.
incredible.
Well, we certainly like to drink coffee. There's like
Yes.
there's a boutique coffee shop at every other mall, right?
So there's always a learning from doing it, and the people that are doing that always push the envelope forward. I think what I was talking about is more, can you do it profitably? So, if you build a greenhouse with the right ACs, with the right humidity, with the right climate, you can probably grow apples. But the issue is that going to be competitive on the market shelf? Um, so for us, I wouldn't grow rice. A lot of people are trying, and they were successful in growing rice here. The idea here is this is a crop that a staple that people are consuming in large amounts. Our mindset is what can replace rice. So this is why I talked about quinoa. The International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, based out here in Dubai, been operating for 20 years, is looking at crops that can grow in saline water. And they identified quinoa as a heat-tolerant, salt-tolerant crop. Quinoa is a grain. It can be cooked and replacing rice. So we had a quinoa biryani, for example. But are we?
How was the quinoa biryani?
It was good. It was done by a really good chef, so that helped.
Sure.
But rice is not grown locally. Rice has a huge role because you can store it well, and white rice especially, and you can trade it around the world. But today, with better storage, better cold storage, better transportation, and maybe through our influence on the ecosystem, we try and replace that with a healthier alternative, so that people, diabetics are being influenced by carbs. So quinoa has incredible nutritional profile, can grow locally, and now you see efforts from Silal and others to grow it on a larger scale, to provide the seeds to farmers. We grow it, and then they can process it and sell it. And that would be an incredible success story, because we're trying to change the diet instead of growing with what's already being consumed. Like I mentioned with dairy, camel milk, camels don't need controlled environment houses. They are very resilient, and it's incredible that Dubai is exporting. So there's, I think, 7,000 to 10,000 camels in production, producing camel milk, and now there's camel milk chocolate and you see it globally more than in the local shelves. So 70 to 90% of it's being exported between China and Europe and the US. So how can we consume it? How can we promote it? How can we play a role there?
I assume that's the target then for anything you're producing, right? Is you want to get to same thing. We're not just selling locally, but you're exporting to the world, right?
Yeah. It's the same story with wheat and rice, large scale production, lots of water. So millets is an alternative to wheat. Again, more regionally adapted. And then we can try and push the consumer towards that. So I don't want to grow anything I can't justify. I don't want to grow something that uses a lot of water and there's no reason to be growing it.
It might be too expensive, right? Well, I mean, so when you're looking at, I guess, changing those habits of a consumer,
Yeah.
We're fortunate to have 200 nationalities here. People all come with their own cuisines, their own sort of expectations of what things taste like, ingredients that go into those things. And a lot of the challenge, I think, that you've already sort of discussed or you've talked around, is that those ingredients aren't here locally, right? So what are your thoughts on sort of trying to change, I guess, tastes, or trying to create something which would be like quinoa biryani, which would be like very specific,
Yeah,
almost UAE unique cuisine,
yeah,
which makes sense with the types of produce that we can grow here.
yeah.
How do you change tastes like that when you have all these people who kind of demand a taste of home or a
Correct.
certain, like flavor that they grew up with?
Correct. I think the basics, it's very difficult, but just like we had trends with kale and it's still around. So somebody came out, talked about the nutrition benefits, there was a big push, and kale became part of the standard salads when if you look 20 years ago, it didn't. It
Sure.
was
Yeah,
very,
I didn't know what kale was.
yeah, quinoa, the push for avocado, acai. Who knew? It's not like we decided we all tried acai and no, this was a concerted effort into a more sustainable ice cream or snack that comes from a fruit, and it was prepared and the industry formulated it in a way that people can consume. So they didn't bring it in the traditional sense. They tried to find recipes or, you know, things that can carry the ingredient and fit into some of the things that we consume on a day to day. So exactly like the biryani, biryani is
Do you have
known
any other ideas other than quinoa biryani, things that you think you can
for
push
quinoa or for other
for
things.
anything
Well,
really?
dates, I'm always, I'm saying, the date balls and the that come from dates. We should have led that. That came from somewhere else, and now dates has a big demand for it. For us, we've been very creative in what we cook at Emirates Bio Farm at the restaurant. So the restaurant is built and is a very tough challenge for our chefs because it's not just vegetarian. It's you can't buy avocado. It's what we have harvested.
Right.
And also, if you are very happy with your broccoli recipe, today I ran out of broccoli, so you have to cook something else. We're not buying from the supermarket, right? So they have to go every day. And not only is it about what I have available, it's what do I have in overstock. So people that show up and everything's made from pumpkins, your dessert and your salad, you'll know that I have too much overproduction of pumpkin. So it plays a role in reducing waste and sustainability of the farm. And through that, we've come up with a lot of different ideas and ingredients in the way we present food. Uh,
So what's next then for Emirates Bio Farm? Looking forward. Obviously, you have the strong community,
yeah,
you have the tours,
yeah.
you have the produce exports now as well. How do you hope to sort of expand it and take the business forward?
Well, we have the poultry the poultry project. We are growing the fruits and vegetables. Now our next step is aquaculture. So I'm setting up a fish farm, but it's in tilapia. So this is a cheaper fish that is more resilient, but it goes into our water irrigation before our irrigation tanks. Our water comes in into the fish project and then to the irrigation tanks. This way we fertilize the water a bit better and we produced fish without bringing in an extra drop of water. So this is our existing water supply. So the idea here is how much more can you generate out of the same drop of water? So fish, I'm very excited about, and we have some trial tanks. So we'll try different things. Somebody's telling me about freshwater shrimp and eels and some unique products that we're going to try. We're going to grow azola, which it grows in this fertilized water, but it can be used as animal feed, very sustainable animal feed. So we looked into black soldier fly as an animal feed. This is a type of insect that grows on waste, but it has very high protein. And chicken naturally eat insects in the ground outside. So trying to replace our feed as much as possible from local sustainable sources is very important for us. Increasing the circularity of the farm. So with the fish project, and then with the hospitality and tourism, we are expanding our capacity. So we used to welcome 1,200 and stop at that. Now we have expanded the F&B, the parking, the access to hopefully welcome 1,500 and then one day to 2,000 a day. So we're expanding on all fronts as much as possible. And maybe one day we'll have a hotel based out at the farm with a culinary school so chefs can learn food from seed, not, you know, there's a million recipes online, but what makes the difference? It's the ingredients. So yeah, we definitely have a long-term vision. We have the resources, the land is available. The government has been very supportive of Emirates Bio Farm. We have a kilometer by a kilometer, 1 million square meters. We are using 25%. So we still have a lot of room to expand.
Absolutely, and a lot more to see. I think a great sort of model for hopefully other farms to emulate in terms of sustainable, locally grown produce. Yazin, thank you so much for being with us on Homegrown. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.